one of the most common responses we hear around stolen generations issues is get over it. It happened in the past, but for those affected, the legacy of removal is something they deal with on a daily basis. Not everything was fixed with the apology in 2008.
Yeah, and last year an NITV investigation revealed that thousands of members of the stolen generations in Victoria had criminal records dating back to their removal from their families. And this triggered a great response from the Victorian government, who last month announced plans to expunge those criminal records wrongly given to stolen generation children.
Now, while records will be expunged, the Labor government has yet to offer that apology they've promised. And this story is produced by Madeline Hayman-Reber and Sylvia Rowley.
As Prime Minister of Australia, I am sorry. On behalf of the Government of Australia, I am sorry. On behalf of the Parliament of Australia, I am sorry.
It was an emotional day meant to symbolise a new beginning, a new relationship between our elders and the government. But for many, it changed nothing at all. We're not just talking about the deep emotional pain our people have suffered. Another fact has been hidden. Until now.
Hello, Maddie. How are you, love?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, nice to see you. It told him is my skin name.
In the suburbs of Melbourne, you'll find highly respected elder Uncle Taljum or Choco Edwards.
Taljum, Choco, my country, the power, bunrang, yorta, yorta, muddy, muddy.
He has a criminal record dating back to when he was just 7 years old. You may be wondering how that's possible, but NITV discovered that until 1992, when a child was forcibly removed from their family under the Children's Welfare Act in Victoria, he or she was often given a criminal record.
Through the freedom of information that I got me files, and then I seen on there that on one of them it said that I was a vagrant, taken away for vagrancy, you know. Well, it never really dawned on me about anything like that, you know. It was a criminal record. We were just taken away, put in the institution.
But it wasn't just Indigenous kids who were affected.
We believe that up until 1992, everyone taken to state care would have had a similar offence recorded on their criminal histories.
Although Uncle Taljum had done nothing wrong, the act of being ripped away from his mother earned him a criminal conviction.
The Children's Court didn't differentiate between people who were taken to the custody of the state because of criminal behaviour or because there were protection concerns about them. And in fact, the children themselves were charged with being neglected, and this was recorded as an offence against their names.
Leader of his class.
Once sentenced to state care, Uncle Taljum was sent to Turana Youth Training Centre alongside people who had committed real offences.
Couldn't go anywhere without being harassed by police. Pretty hard to change your life from being an institutionalised person to, you know, trying to live a decent sort of life. You know, never, you know, I tried. I got jobs, you know, but you know, things just never worked out.
We've now discovered that Victoria wasn't the only state that gave stolen children a criminal record. Up the east coast in Wollongong, New South Wales, I've come to meet Auntie Vicky Roach, who also has a record just for being taken into state care.
Hi Auntie Vicky, I'm Maddie. Nice to meet you. Lovely to meet you.
She was charged under the New South Wales Child Welfare Act when she was just 2 years old.
When I applied for my wardship file, it was the first document in that file was a charge sheet saying that I'd been charged with destitution or neglect by way of destitution, it was called. And it actually said I was apprehended in the Liverpool court for being destitute. But look, I was 2 years old. You know, there weren't a lot of jobs around for kids my age back then.
Like Uncle Taljum, once she was put into state care, she faced further criminal charges anytime her carers felt she misbehaved.
Well, it was basically the start of my criminalisation because things that normal kids would get the wooden spoon for or the strap or something, I'd have the child welfare brought in, and it would often become a charge.
By the time she was 15, Auntie Vicky had not only got a criminal record for allegedly being neglected, she'd also been charged with being uncontrollable for running away from her foster home and with being exposed to moral danger for having male friends.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, is an uncontrollable child. How can a child neglect itself? And why would you then charge a child criminally for something? Why would it be called an offence?
This led to her being sent to an adult prison for her first drug possession offence when she was just 17. It was also raised when she was in court as an adult.
There was one particular time that I specifically remember where they said that I had antecedents going back to 1961, which of course is when I was 2. So in the court's eyes, I'd been a criminal since I was 2.
NITV can now reveal that children throughout the country who entered care also appear to have these convictions.
Other states and territories all had the same type of legislation up until, the 90s, and similar language was used, and as we're aware that similar processes and practices occurred in children's courts in those jurisdictions.
Queensland was especially cruel to its stolen children. Here, under the 1911 State Children's Act, some children were unlucky enough to be sent to an open-air prison. Palm Island. Auntie Elizabeth Clay was born here, only because the police took her father Frederick and his siblings from Kalkadoon country in northwest Queensland.
My grandmother told them to run, which they did, but they grabbed the 5 small ones. My dad was 8, and the only girl, the youngest one, she was 7, and his 3 brothers. They brought them here. Just turned up in a cattle truck, threw them in there, and took them to the Cloncurry Watch House. I don't know how long they spent there, and they put them on the train to Palm Island.
Once on the island, these innocent children were treated like criminals.
So a lot of people say that Palm Island was a prison island, and I've read that there was big fences around the dormitories, and they were essentially locked up.
They were locked up. They had padlocks on the doors.
And were they ever let out?
When they were let out, they were escorted everywhere to work by black community police. They were treated like criminals. They weren't free to do anything. You had to get permission to do anything, go shopping, anything, get married.
Nina Springle is a Victorian Greens MP. When NITV first reported on the practice of criminalising stolen children last year, she decided to do something about it.
It was quite personal for me, actually. I was moved by it. I felt like I needed to do something to right that wrong, even if it's a symbolic gesture.
She moved a motion in Parliament to wipe the convictions children received simply for being taken into care.
In terms of the logistical impacts, I would suggest it probably has impacted on employability, on getting accommodation at times for people who struggle in that way. I think it's a lifelong thorn in people's side who have been dealt this blow, for no fault of their own.
The Victorian Aboriginal Legal Service was consulted quite briefly on this issue. However, I believe that there is further consultation required, particularly with the elders and community members who have been affected by these criminal records.
Earlier this month, after an initial investigation, the Victorian Attorney-General released a letter to Parliament saying the government was considering an apology and expungement scheme for those affected.
I think it's fair to say that we are talking about thousands of people over many decades, and the recording practices up till about 1992 were just simply wrong. The recording practices were wrong, and it created the impression that people had criminal records when they did not.
While an apology has been mooted, there has been no word from the government on compensation for people whose lives have been forever changed by this systemic error.
I do think they should be compensated because some of the impacts of this are lifelong. And so again, you've got people who are significantly impacted by societal barriers, you know, systemic challenges to begin with, and then on top of that they have a criminal record that they don't deserve.
I would like $1 million for every year that that I've been involved with the system, you know, through the institution and the prison system, you know. That is just my thinking of things, you know.
Meanwhile, members of the stolen generation simply have to wait and see what happens. And people like Auntie Vicky and Uncle Taljum continue to live with the consequences of being branded a criminal.
We all could have had a beautiful life, you know, until they've taken it all away, and we should be compensated for ruining our life.
It does, the injustice of everything makes me want to cry all the time, you know, as recently as this morning.